So a few days ago, NetEase published the Hero Adjustments article that detailed what's changing in the update coming later this week. And I gotta say, I think they've historically done a really good job when it comes to making proper and well thought out changes to hero kits to both shake things up in the meta, but also keeping outliers in line and not letting them run wild for too long. But this time around, there are some real head scratchers to me, some heroes that I think are getting tuned way down to the point where I'm not sure they'll have much of a valid presence outside of just like, casual quick play matches. So in today's video, I'm going to break down each of these changes for you and see if you echo my same thoughts, okay? Now, let me just say up front, I think it's natural when someone's main gets nerfed for them to be upset about it, right? So before you assume that I'm just salty that my favorite heroes got hit, right? Just know that I don't main anything. I'm a jack of all trades in this game. I've got 17 Lord characters right now and counting. I love to play a wide variety of roles and sub-roles in this game. I just get too bored if I play the same character all the time. I can't do it. So just know that I'm coming at this conversation from the perspective of someone who wants all heroes to have a strong identity, even the ones I dislike. All right, let's get started with the first hero. First up on the Butcher's chopping block is the Human Torch. Now, I'm not necessarily upset that he's getting nerfed, okay? I'm just upset at how he's getting nerfed and what the whole story arc for his kit has been from start to finish. So we need to rewind first. When the Torch first dropped into the game, people thought that he was a throw pick, okay? But I genuinely believed back then that's just because people didn't understand his kit properly. They thought he was like a big ranged flying damage dealer, and he wasn't, right? They whined that his primary was weak, it was hard to hit, and that his dive made him vulnerable. But I put in 30 hours on Torch that season, and in his initial state before he got buffed, and I actually thought the opposite, okay? I thought he was S tier, I thought he was the best flyer in the game, and I had guides breaking down how to use him right, and I was using him in like Grandmaster and up lobbies at the time, right? And once people started to learn his kit, they started to report great success with him, but the outcries of the casual player that couldn't have immediate success with him reached the ears at NetEase, and they buffed his primary damage, they buffed his primary animation speed, and more. And at this point, I thought, okay, please do not buff him again, okay? He's so good, and if you do buff him again, he'll just end up getting nerfed. And guess what? They buffed him again. They decided then to give him, a bonus 75 bonus health every time he used his Flaming Meteor dive attack, and they also buffed his primary attack a second time. They then decided to give him 75 bonus health every time he used his Flaming Meteor dive attack, and then they buffed his primary attack a second time. And I knew he was done for at this point. I was like, well, it's just a matter of time now. Sure enough, he shot to the top of the meta, people started to hate him, now he's getting nerfed hard. Okay, here's what's changing. They're dropping his primary damage, they're cutting down on how much HP he gets for his dive attack, and they're raising the cooldown of his dive to a full 20 seconds. That's 3 nerfs. This is so stupid, like genuinely stupid. Okay, let me give you a quick explanation before we move on to the next here about why it's stupid. Okay, I would have preferred that they just reverted him back to his launch state, the way that he was when they first put him in the game, when everyone thought he was weak. He's worse than he was when he launched, back when people said he was weak. He's now worse than that. That's what sucks about it, okay? They nerfed him, so he's worse than he was. Back then, the Flaming Meteor ability was on a 12-second cooldown, and people said he was weak. Okay? Now that ability is on a 20-second cooldown. It's a crime. It's an actual crime. Torch mains out there, back me up on this. You know that his dive is really the thing that allows him to get final hits on key enemies like healers in the backline or snipers taking pot shots. He isolates them. He dives on them for big burst damage, right? Put a flaming field at their feet, dive on it, does an explosion, knocks them back, and then you follow it up with a primary attack that cleans them up. And then you go back to the skies to do chip damage again from range with your fire cages, okay? But putting that ability on a 20-second cooldown is insane. Imagine if they put Black Panther's Spirit Rend dash on a 20-second cooldown. You'd be livid. It's his primary way of getting the final hit before bugging out, right? Friggin' Emma Frost's Diamond Form is only on a 15-second cooldown, and that ability is insane. But putting the Torch's main way of securing final blows behind a 20-second cooldown, I think it's just going to destroy his utility. That's 8 seconds longer than it used to be. Personally, I would much prefer that they kept it at the original 12-second cooldown and got rid of the bonus health that they attached to the ability. right? Because I think if you're using that dive correctly, you don't really need that 75 health. You shouldn't be diving into the middle of the enemy team, okay? I don't think that it's necessary. The goal is to peel somebody away from the group by using your flame cages to force somebody away, and once they're isolated, that's the target that you dive on and you bully. So you don't need that bonus HP if you're using the ability properly. That's just my opinion. Also, his primary fire getting nerfed, it brings it back down to the same amount of damage that it was originally when he launched. So you might think, oh, that's fine. But here's the thing. The damage is now spread out among more projectiles, meaning you need to land more projectiles to get the full damage. So in other words, his primary went from like a high skill ceiling, highly accurate killer that's sort of like think of it like a slug shotty. Now it's a dumbed down primary where you get, you get damage more often with it because it's easier to hit something, but it's spread out. So you're not going to get the full damage as often as you used to. So this sucks because we already have a low skill flyer in the form of Storm. And I don't mean that to insult Storm mains, but she's super easy to play. She's very simple compared to Torch. So all this to say, I think this nerf sucks big time, and I wish they'd instead have just taken the bonus health away from his dive and just let that be and made him a higher risk pick. I think that would have been sufficient. Moving on to hero number 2, we got to talk about my man Thor. Okay, I've been genuinely surprised at how many people think this rework is a buff. It's not. What they're doing is they're dumbing him down. They're simplifying his kit to make it all about just Rune Awakening. And they're doing this while lowering his skill ceiling. So right now, Thor is very versatile. Okay, you've got the Rune Awakening state for big burst damage on a key target, but people put way too much emphasis on this state. I can't tell you how many Thor guides I have seen where people are like, you want to be in your Rune Awakening state as much as humanly possible. If it's cooldown, activate it. You want to always be in that state. That is so completely wrong. This state is a highly reckless move. You basically choose in the moment that you want to take away all of your defenses for the sake of having greater offense for several seconds. So it's a big commitment because it's potential suicide because you can't fly away if things go south. You can't consume Thor Force to generate bonus health for yourself. You completely lose all of your defenses for the sake of more offense for a few seconds. But Thor has another mini game under his belt where he can cycle through Thor Force abilities to generate health for himself and do burst damage with the hammer throw as an alternative to the Rune Awakening state. So currently, the hammer throw does 70 damage and it grants you bonus HP every time you use it at the same time. So it's both offensive and defensive at the same time. So if you need to burst down a tankier enemy, it's actually better to go melee hammer throw, right? Because you can animation cancel your standard melee attack with that hammer throw. So in less than a second, you can do 110 damage while generating bonus health at the same time. So to dumb this all down for you, if you need to do big damage, you have your healers around, Thor can use his Rune Awakening to do that. But if you need to be a tank, you need to stay mobile, you need to generate healing for yourself and maybe support your supports by peeling for them, that's when you use your melee hammer combo, your melee and hammer throw combo instead to keep your bonus health topped off while doing respectable damage. But NetEase is completely taking this second option away now. Instead, they're removing the hammer throw from Thor's Thor Force loop entirely. It's now going to be a basic ability on a 6-second cooldown. It will do 25 less damage, down to 45 damage instead of 70, and it will just generate Thor Force now. This is so confusing to me. How could this possibly not be a nerf? This is the same amount of damage as his normal hammer swing, and he completely lost that melee combo for burst damage. This is a direct nerf to Thor's burst damage, straight up. There's no way around it. Since it used to be tied to Thor Force, you could throw the hammer for 70 damage, then immediately smack the enemy with a normal melee attack, which recharges the Thor Force and refunds the hammer throw. So you can continue to go bop, 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 throw, bop, 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 throw, bop, 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 throw. Huge burst damage. So where does that leave us? Well, now the only way to do big burst damage as Thor is with the Rune Awakening. That's it. That's all we've got. But remember what I said about this state? It's essentially Thor throwing all of his armor onto the ground and rushing at an enemy naked, okay? His damage goes up, his survivability goes way, way down. But his survivability has taken 2 hits, not just the one, because at the same time, we lost that ability to generate bonus health with a hammer toss. Now, NetEase immediately got roasted for this change by Thor mains, and they made a tweet basically saying, hey guys, don't you see what you can do now? You can use your Rune Awakening more. And that just made Thor mains even more mad, because we already have a way to get Thor Force, guys. It's a core part of using Thor. We put a bubble down on an enemy, and we immediately get Thor Force refunded to us. And then we can use our Rune Awakening a ton, okay? We don't need a 45 damage hammer toss on a 6-second cooldown in order to generate Thor Force. So in summation, NetEase removed a core gameplay loop from Thor and is trying to simplify his kit to be all about Rune Awakening. They dumbed him down and they lowered his skill ceiling drastically. All in all, this is a bad move and a hefty nerf that they tried to sell to us as a buff. That's the thing, is they didn't say we're nerfing him. They said we're reworking him. This is a buff, you guys. But guess what? We're not stupid, so we didn't accept that at face value. If they really wanted to buff Thor, all they needed to do was give him a better team up. Boom. But I can guarantee you this, after this change, Thor is not going to see a lot of uptime in higher tiered comp lobbies because his skill ceiling got dropped considerably. All right, let's move on to the final hero. This one isn't as dramatic as the other two, but I still think it will be felt in a very real way. We're going to chat about Psylocke. This one just confuses me because it basically says to me that they don't understand their own character, how Psylocke is played. I think Psylocke has had an uptick in usage because Emma Frost was brand new to the game and she had a team up with Psylocke that was really solid. But NetEase seems to disassociate those two things from one another, and they see an uptick in Psylocke usage and they think, oh, she's too strong, we gotta nerf her, she's too tough, okay? So they're nerfing the damage of her wing shurikens and they're reducing the duration of her invisibility by 33%. That's a massive nerf, guys. This, to me, seems like a swing and a miss because the way they talk about it says they don't understand it, right? We'll get to that in a second. Let's start with the wing shurikens. So Psylocke has a core combo, if you're not aware, that I like to call the cha-cha, okay, because of the noise it makes when you pull it off. It's 4 inputs. It's primary fire, wing shuriken recall, primary fire, okay? And it goes cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. If you land almost everything in this combo, then you will delete a squishy target outright. It comes out to 302 damage if you land everything. Now, that's not easy to do because squishies have small hitboxes. They're also pretty mobile, generally speaking. So you have to have near perfect aim to land all of those projectiles on a moving target with a small hitbox. And you can't aim for the head, by the way. If you do, then you'll miss a bunch of projectiles because of the way that Psylocke's projectile spread works. If you aim for the head, you're going to end up missing probably 2, maybe even 3 of her projectiles. And this is Psylocke's real utility, is her ability to be an assassin, right? A good Psylocke will be in the back line a lot, targeting healers, targeting ranged duelists to take them off the board to help her team. And you do that, by the way, by using her invisibility to close the gap on those guys so they don't get free damage on you when they see you coming, okay? But guys, how much of a gap can you realistically cover in 2 seconds? Because that's how long your invisibility is going to last now, is just 2 seconds. Her invisibility exists to get her past the front line into the back line without being seen, so she can ambush, like snipers, moon knights, and healers. 2 seconds is peanuts. That's going to be near impossible now. And they did it because they want to target her ability to get away. They said so right there in the article when they said they're nerfing the invisibility to reduce her survivability. That just shows to me they don't understand how people are using invisibility because it's not to get away. That's what the dashes are for. The invisibility exists to get you into an engagement, not away from one. Now it can be used to get you away from a bad situation, but that's extremely suboptimal, and any good Psylocke main will tell you that. The invisibility isn't a good way to escape because you're not invincible. And there are so many tracking attacks and AoE attacks and sweeping attacks like Mr. Fantastic, who's popular right now, that will immediately reveal you out of your invisibility. So the best thing you can do to get away is to use your dash to fly to safety. Now we circle back to that damage nerf to her wing shurikens. Let's mention that real quick. Technically, you can still kill a squishy. This combo is now going to do a total of 292 damage. But guys, that's if you land absolutely everything. And I mean every single projectile needs to connect. That's 21 individual projectiles that you need to land. That's perfection. All I can say is good luck. Squishy targets are usually pretty mobile, they have small hitboxes, so you have to be immaculate. Between that and the invisibility nerf, I think Psylocke's usage is going to take a real hit. And honestly, I do not think it's warranted at all, but that's just my opinion. So there you have it. Those are the 3 heroes that I think are being nerfed too hard this week. But I want to hear what you have to say about all this. Sound off in the comments below and let me know if you agree or disagree and why. And also, let me know if there's another nerf that you think is worse than these ones. Thanks so much for watching the video today. If you enjoyed it, would you let me know by leaving a like on the video, as it's the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube. And consider subscribing for additional Marvel Rivals content. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.